This is episode 110 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 110 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Mark Loeffler on the show. Mark is on the show for the second time. He was on around episode 50 talking about his 180 unit portfolio. Well, now Mark is making some changes. So his joint venture partner is asking to be bought out, and Mark is working through the motions to sell off the entire portfolio. He's looking at selling the entire $27 million of the portfolio that he holds with this investor, which he's held with that investor for 5 years. And Mark's expecting to make about $3 million after tax on this transaction. So it's kind of like a happy and not happy transaction in that he's happy that he's going to make some very good investment capital that he can redeploy. But of course, there's always that sadness when you have to part with real estate that you enjoy to have in your portfolio. So Mark is a wealth of knowledge. We've slowly became friends after we initially met the first time he came on this podcast. We've done regular monthly updates on Mark's YouTube channel. So he's a wealth of knowledge. I encourage you to check him out on his YouTube channel as well if you have not already done so. And just a quick reminder, make sure that if you're new to this podcast and you're hearing terminology that you don't understand or that's new to you, we have progressed over time and we don't break down the basics quite as much as we used to. So if you're new and fresh and you want to get a really good grasp on all the terminology that we use and all the basics and the fundamentals, head right back to episode 1 and I promise you that it will become a lot more clear. If you haven't already done so, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and go ahead and leave me a comment if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the audio version, be sure to leave me a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It just helps more people to find this show and helps more people to create freedom in their lives. So without further ado, please enjoy episode 110 with Mark Loeffler. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have on the show for the second time, Mark Loeffler. Mark, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me at your place.
You're welcome. Yeah, I get to host today. This is so if you guys don't recognize the background, it's because that means you haven't been on my YouTube channel. That's what that means. Yeah.
If you watch Mark's YouTube channel, you'll recognize this. Last time you were on, you were at like 180 units in Hamilton and doing a little bit of the stock hacking. We're going to talk about all that stuff and more. But why don't you just tell me what's new, what's happening right now?
What's new is we're selling 140 units right now.
So that's the bulk of your portfolio?
Well, I mean, yeah, we're going to be down to around 40 units after that.
40 units left. What's the big driver? Why are you doing that?
Partner says sell. He's the money guy. I could have bought him out. It just didn't make economic sense from my perspective. I could have done a shotgun. Yet, the price I wanted to shotgun him at, he probably would have just paid me out, and it would have left me $1.5 million to $2 million short, as if I just sold the properties. So I said, no, at this stage in my life, $1.5 million to $2 million, I'd rather have that than not. So let's just go ahead and sell the property.
So that'll be what you pull out of that. Is that after tax, you figure?
After tax, it'll probably be 3 to 3.5. 3 to
3.5
million, yeah.
That's a good chunk that you can put to work.
Yeah, it's a good chunk that I can put to work, and that's what I looked at, right? And not bad for 5 years worth of effort and none of my own money.
So 5 years of effort, none of your own money, and you're getting to pull out that much.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
Let's call it $3 million after tax.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So tell me what you're thinking next. Like, where do you see that money going to better work? And actually, maybe in that answer, tell me why you didn't see leaving it there or buying him out as being a good option.
Well, the price that I think I can get on the market, I didn't want to pay.
Yeah.
I still have the option to buy the properties at the highest bid. So today, for instance, we're selling a 22 unit. If we get an offer and I think it's too low, or I think for that price, I'd rather buy it, I can just go ahead and buy that building.
Yeah.
And at that price. And then it comes out of the portfolio at that price.
So is that something that you guys had written into your JV agreement, or you have a shareholders agreement?
We have a shareholder agreement and JV agreement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just agreed in the sale process that if either of us wanted to just go ahead and buy the asset after at that price, we both could.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you guys are still on good terms and just trying to work towards an outcome that you're both on board with here.
Yeah. And for him, the sale, it wasn't about like our relationship or anything like that. It's more of it was starting to become an inconvenience for him, just an inconvenience for him. People kept calling him. He's like, listen, I can go lend out this money at 10%. I get no phone calls. I have no hassles.
Yeah.
You know, we bought the last property we bought on 20 Duke, like a retaining wall collapsed. We had fire in there. We had building inspection. And he's like, yeah, seems to be getting a lot of work. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm doing it all, but it's okay.
I was about to say, aren't you the guy doing it?
Yeah, but he still gets all the letters. He still gets the calls because he's the president of the corp.
So it's his stress. There's no way to get that to change. Like, I mean, you can be the mailing on everything, right?
Yeah. The difference is, well, we'd have to take him off all the mortgages and everything.
Yeah, so as long as he's on that.
His net worth greatly contributes to the fact that we can buy buildings differently because the bank likes him a lot.
Oh, okay.
Like, they like me, but they like him a lot.
Yeah, they'll do special things. So
yeah, like we got 75% financing, not dependent on income. So whatever the appraised value is, we got 75% for our first 6 or 7 properties.
And that's pretty unheard of.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, no one really does that because, well, I guess from the bank standpoint, they don't want it reliant on you. Yeah. Because if it's not reliant on the building, then it's reliant on you as the individual. So I guess they're comfortable relying on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it is his stress. That makes sense. Do you see that as a negative when you get into joint ventures, knowing that one day somebody might surprise you with that?
I think maybe the thing is not to, like, obviously he was a big portion of my portfolio. Maybe what I would have done differently is had brought in other partners. I felt loyal to him, like, okay, he's funding everything. And to be honest, it was easy. Like, don't get me wrong. It was super easy. I didn't have to work very hard because I knew I had the money, right? Yeah. On that side, I didn't have to go call and follow up or do anything for the money. And, you know, and I was kind of I obligated myself to say, yeah, if I get a deal, I'm going to bring it to you first.
Yeah.
Which I didn't need to do, yet at the end of the day, that's what I did.
Well, obviously that builds goodwill, right? So that's why he wants to deal with you. And I think that's, you know, anyone I've dealt with for money, like I always prioritize them, right? Hey, you've worked with me since the beginning, you get the first call. So you'll always get the first option. I think people appreciate that, and it makes them more wanting to do the business.
Exactly.
But now you're in the position you're in, and you're selling it all. And I guess it's a happy conclusion because you're going to pull some good money out of that.
Well, it's so funny though. Like I talked to other real estate investors, like, oh man, that sucks. I'm like, does it? Like, I get a nice check.
Yeah.
And I can now go and buy either apartment buildings without a partner.
Yeah.
Or I can do different things like with that money. And I know we're going to talk about that, but it's you know, life happens. It's what you do with it, right? So this event is happening. Maybe I'll still retain some of the buildings. Maybe I won't. At the end of the day, it's fine either way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm pretty much easy either way that happens. So.
Yeah, let's talk. I mean, because these are big acquisitions. I mean, I think a lot of people would really be into being in the situation you were in. And even if it concludes with you got to sell and make $3 million, I mean, that's good. Yeah. You know, of course, we want to hold on to real estate long term. How did you find this investor that you're working with? Where did that relationship come from?
Golf course.
Golf course. That's why you got to have that golf membership.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's actually not even a member of my golf course. We met at a tournament somewhere. And
you just went to a tournament and met him. And what's the angle here? Like, what was your value add proposition to an investor that you found?
My value add was, well, obviously I was doing the management. I was doing everything. Also, obviously finding the assets, which, I mean, you talk to 90% of people who want to invest in apartment buildings and they say they can't find assets.
Yeah. Whereas
I have no trouble finding those assets. And then, you know, obviously so he couldn't have done this on his own, basically.
So you have kind of a pre-conversation. Hey, I get these from time to time. Is that something you're interested in? Do you want me to bring it to you if I find something or when I find something?
Well, the conversation basically went, we met at the golf course. He's like, I'm interested in what you guys do. It was me and my partner, one of my employees at the time, or sales reps, whatever you want to call them. And so I was like, okay, let's have a coffee. So we had a coffee at Starbucks. It was me, my sales guy, and him. And it basically went, well, this is what we do. We help people either two ways, help buy apartments, set it all up. You know, they can put their own management team in, do all that type of stuff. Or we manage that whole process. And then, you know, whatever investor money is in there is registered as a second mortgage on the corporation. or the property, whatever, it doesn't matter, at 0 interest, and then we split the profits 50-50.
Yeah. Well, so on your financial statements, the money he puts in is a loan to the company.
That's correct.
It's got to be, okay. So secured against the company, and then you will even secure it against the property inside the corp.
Yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, you would need both signatures to sell a property out of that corp, would you not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't really, that's probably an unnecessary step with that part, but just an extra layer of comfort for your investor.
Yep.
Okay. So you position it to him that way. Do you see being a realtor as being a big angle there that helped you do it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think just more the fact that some of the stuff was on market, right? Like some of the stuff we got on market, and then we developed relationships with some other realtors after, and they brought us more stuff. I think just being a good buyer, that I was willing to pay good prices, and when we did a deal, it closed.
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. I know we've talked about this before. Like, it's not like you're scooping stuff for way under market. You're scooping good assets that you know have upside.
Yeah.
And you're not doing, from our last conversation, you're not doing the aggressive kick everybody out and turn it all over on day one.
Well, no, I mean, that's the thing. We never had the crew to do that, right? Because we were acquiring a lot. So, I mean, like last year we did, almost 60 or 70 units. This year was only 29. But still, that 29 units, we have 8 vacancies right now. So it's just working through that. And, we're starting to see turnover in other buildings. So we never really needed to just go out and kick people out, because we had a big enough portfolio that people just left naturally.
So this kind of relies on finding an investor with deep enough pockets that they don't need that BRRRR model where you just pull everything back out. Like when you position something like this to them, what are you telling them, like, as a forecast?
Yeah, the goal is to have all their money back within 4 years.
Within 4 years. So we'll go in, we'll slowly turn them over, market will do its thing. We'll get you your money back when it refi.
Yeah, basically we go in, we buy first year, we get interest-only mortgage. We'll refinance after that year, put it into a fixed mortgage, take another 1-year term on that. After the end of that one, we'll go ahead and put a 2-year term on it after refinancing again. And
are there any guarantees in that arrangement?
No guarantee.
So you just said, this is what we're aiming to do. This is what the market's been doing. Can you really see it stopping?
Well, this is the goal, right? Yeah. So here's what the rents are now. Here's what we can get them to on purchase. And I mean, the one we bought 4 years ago when we were renting a 2-bedroom, it was $1,295, and now we're getting $1,700, right? So like that just increases the value even more.
So if you were trying to convince me when you come in, I say I got all the money, what would you say to me to make me want to do that deal? Like, say one of these, pick one in your head that you've done.
Yeah, I'd just say, Andrew, here's one that we did. We refinanced in 2 years, and we pulled out more than all of our money plus our capital expenses. Do you want to own an asset like this with none of your own money within 2 to 4 years?
Okay. So then that gives them the chance to do it over again.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd have the opportunity to sell them on just a return? Say, hey, some people have too much money that they need to place, right? So they don't necessarily want it back, right? They want it earning a return.
And I've thought about that, and we were talking about that. The problem, it comes down to the valuation. So that's why I have the opportunity now to buy these properties out at the high price, right? So I had an opportunity to, like, I could have shotgunned it, and I had the money to shotgun it. It just, again, what I needed to shotgun it at and the pricing I was getting my money at on that, I don't think it made sense. Yeah. And I would have left money on the table. And if he had, because in a shotgun, he can turn it around back on me.
Yeah, he could buy it from you. So you don't want to underprice it. Otherwise, he'll just take it from you. Okay, so I mean, in that specific case, it obviously makes sense. I mean, do you think you would have been in a cash negative position if you had paid what market's willing to pay?
Yeah, with the cost of money I had, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, and that's never any fun.
No.
Okay, so investor, when they come in, what was their expectation? Like they were expecting, this one in particular that you're selling today. Was he expecting to make cash flow? Was he expecting that you would be taking anything out of this before he got his money back? Like, what were the expectations there?
So the expectation was zero cash flow. I said any cash flow we do get gets thrown back into the business, renovations, whatever. The second expectation was he got all his money back before I ever made a dime.
So you get nothing until he gets all his money back.
Yep.
Okay. what kind of funding account did you have? Like what did you fund the account with up front for unknowns? Like, did you raise more than the down payment is what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
You had down payment, closing costs, plus like 3 months of rent or 3 months of mortgage payments. What did you do?
So here, we did a little differently on all of them. We bought them all cash.
Oh, okay. So you bought them cash and then you refinanced.
And then refinanced them. So we really didn't need that operating thing, because basically the first couple of months generated that
the cash to renovate.
the cash. No, not to renovate. We had the renovation budget in.
Okay.
For the first couple units, and then we would just go ahead and pull money in, or we'd refinance something and we get $2 million and we'd leave $500,000 in to renovate or something like that.
Okay, so if you were buying something for $2 million or sort of 1.5 million, you might actually have $2 million raised all up front. 500 goes into the account to fund all your renovation turnover. Yep. So you might now, would you raise for units that you didn't know for sure were turning over, or if you had 3 vacant, you'd raise the money for 3 vacant?
No, I'd raise for money that's not. So if it wasn't that partner,
yeah,
all of my renovation costs would be included.
So all 8 units, if it was an 8 unit. Well, that's nice to sit on that pile of cash, but then you're waiting, right? You're just waiting and it's inefficient.
So that's when I would go ahead and I would kick people out, or not kick people out, but ask people gently to leave with, here's some money, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like we could be patient because the money was sitting in his account. He was doing other things with it.
Yeah.
And I would just say, hey, we kind of need to put some money in for renovations. And he'd say how much, and the next day it would show up.
Okay, so you had a very good understanding. You knew it wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, that's critical, because that's something I wouldn't feel comfortable doing with early on. Like if you had a long track record with that person, you knew they weren't going to, hold money back.
I mean, at the beginning, we put extra money in on our first deal. Yeah. And then, that went really well. Again, we pulled out all our money, and then we did another 2 or 3 deals right away, and just consistently over time bought more. So.
Okay, so yeah, if you knew it was, $2 million of purchase and improvement, you're raising $2 million, and going to try and do it all cash pretty well every time.
I wouldn't do that typically.
Yeah.
It just happened to be with this investor that was the easiest, and it made us the strongest, right? Like we were basically, going in and buying properties, and we could say, yeah, we can close in 30 days. Yeah. Whereas anybody doing bank financing can't close in 30 days.
No, that's not realistic, especially not in this market. No. I don't think. I think you're coming in cash or private mortgages or a combo, right? I think a lot of people can scrap together what they need through, private mortgages here and there.
But when you buy a $6.6 million portfolio,
hard to scrap it then.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that's what you're selling right now, 6.6, you figure?
It's anywhere from 27 to 29 million.
That's not small.
No.
So I think the obvious question here is, why aren't more people approaching big real estate the way you've approached it here? Why? Because that's very uncommon. I don't hear anybody talking these numbers. The arrangement makes sense, totally. But why do you think more people aren't doing that?
Well, at the end of the day, it's expensive money. If I had just gone ahead and borrowed privately, maybe I wouldn't have been able to grow as fast. I mean, there are a lot of people out there doing it. I know a lot of people that I talk to now would rather borrow private money
than have the partner.
But
on something so big, like, to me, that's where I would change my tune on that, because there's a lot of running around or scrounge up that private money to do something so big.
It is. There are individuals out there that will just do it for you. A lot of people out there are doing, let's say, like a pref rate with less ownership. So like an 8% pref rate with 25% ownership, not 50-50.
Okay, so they'll lend you the money and then, okay.
Yeah, and it's better for them because it's not a loan. So it's, they're getting equity. Yeah. So they have a better tax treatment on it too. Okay. Here's the thing. There's dozens and dozens of ways to do it. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people out there doing 50-50 joint ventures on stuff like this. And
but that's not a bad deal. Like my point is, I think it's a good deal when you're doing something so big.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like any way you can skin it, you can get yourself into it.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it, right?
On the big buildings, to me, it is. On the small ones, I just don't feel like it is.
Well, you can just turn them quicker, right? So in 6 months, you can pay out a private lender. You can, and something like that, you can, your uncle who has his house paid off can lend you the money to do the deal. He's borrowing at 3%. You're paying him 6 to 8%.
Yeah, he's making some money.
Everybody wins, right? Where in this, obviously, it's longer time frame. And that's why I never borrowed the private money, and that's why I opted to sell rather, because that's what I would have had to do.
Yeah, like what you've proposed here is really what I would need to do in order to feel comfortable with a deal like that. Because when I know that you're bleeding, when you're net cash negative, and you don't know when your tenants are going to leave, there's so many uncertainties there. There's a lot of things that could keep you up at night, and I wouldn't want that. So it's nice to know you got an investor. You guys can both have faith. You know, units will naturally turn over, and then you also know that you can grease the wheels a little bit and help
if you need to.
If you need to, right? So. Was there an expectation from your partner in terms of how fast you get stuff turned over, or you just said 4 years and you yourself knew that was lots of time?
Yeah, I just know that 4 years is an abundance of time, and this people leave for whatever reasons.
But there's always a couple of lifers. Like, what percentage is just not going to leave in a 4 year?
You say that though, and then like we thought we had a lifer, and she was, I don't know, she was 78.
Yeah.
And like last year, she said, "Oh, I got into this retirement home or this old age home." We're like, oh, well, I mean, she was a great tenant. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, great tenant. And we're like, oh, well, we'll help you move. You just tell us when. We'll arrange some mover. We'll help you out, right? Like, we'll get it all done. And, you know, because she was a great tenant. And yet she was paying like $600, maybe $500 and something. She'd been there since like 1982.
Wow.
Like, you look at my rent roll now, I have a 1984 on there, right? Like, it's, at some point, that person's going to move.
They will. It's just I know for me, like that one person might give me a little bit of anxiety because I know that the building should be worth more and I'll want to get that value. But I guess, again, when you take the private money out of the equation, the stress and anxiety and the need to do that kind of go away too.
100%. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm not that I'm not big on paying people to leave. I definitely have done it in the past. It's at the end of the day, if they say no or whatever, like they can't find a place to rent for that price anymore. And I get it, right? Yeah. Like and at the end of the day, if I renovate, it was a 22 unit. If I renovate 21 out of 22 units,
yeah. Oh, your
I think
value's
it'll be
there.
okay. And at the end of the day, if you think inflation is going up 10%, then you're almost better off waiting for that person to leave on their own ability, because now you're going to get $2,000 or $2,500 for rent. And then you're going to lament the people you rented to 5 years ago at $1,200, not $1,700.
Of course. Yeah, I like the the idea that it will take care of itself. You don't need to force it. And I think when you put yourself in that position to need to force it, you have to deal with what comes with that. And I would prefer not to.
I think the biggest lesson in any type of investing you're going to do is patience.
Yeah. Patience.
The more patient you are, the more you're going to win.
That's just not the way I started this business. Couldn't be patient. Had to happen now. I mean, but I needed to. I was paying crazy money.
Same with me. When I started this, there was no patience. It was like, okay, boom, do it.
Got to get it done.
But all the numbers worked, right? Yeah. Like the stuff I was buying duplexes in Newmarket. I was buying, in Toronto. I wasn't even in Hamilton yet. But the numbers worked. Like they were the crazy numbers. Like,
now when you look at things, you have to look at surface value and say they don't work, except if you're not financing them, and then I guess it works. If you're buying them cash, then it's all sort of profit, so to speak.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I ran the numbers on my channel, so I don't know if you watched that one, the 22 unit for sale one on my channel, and I ran it 4.5 million, the building, which is just a little over $200,000 a unit, and I showed how you could get your money back within 4 years.
I'm going to have to check that one out. I haven't seen that one yet. Talk me through what to expect in Hamilton right now, because I know that's your main playground.
Yeah, I mean, in this space or what space?
Well, in the multi space. I mean, everybody and their dog wants a multi. I know you had Mark on the show not too long ago. I think they were talking about that as well. But
yeah, Mark and Mike, yeah.
Yeah, what should people be expecting?
I mean, if you're buying something that has lift, you're paying 3 to 3.5 cap.
3 to 3.5 cap. I don't even pay attention to the cap rates anymore because the rents are so outdated on some of these buildings. So I'm more thinking price per unit.
Yeah. So minimum you're 185.
On the market, or that's a special deal?
No, that's all. Like you can get stuff on the market. Like I think we're going to sell one of ours. We have an offer on one of ours at 187.5 a door. That's for 32 units, and it's it's a good building, but it's a little rougher right now.
Is there parking with that? Like, do you expect parking at that price point typically?
Yeah, there's parking on that one.
What about these crazy buildings where it's like terrible and they're asking 200? Are they just over asking? Or
So the smaller the building, right, the more price per unit.
Yeah.
Obviously, concrete construction raises that price.
Like if brick would go for more as well, or
So like if you have wood frame, it's going
with
to go
brick?
less.
Yeah, it's less. Okay.
So you might get something like 165, 170 a door. It just depends on how many units you're buying right now. I mean, obviously, if we get 200 a door for the portfolio, that's, gives us 2.8 million. I think we're going to be a little bit less than that, but that's okay.
Yeah. What kind of cap rate are you figuring your stuff is going to sell at, like ballpark? And this will come out after, so don't worry.
I don't care anyways. 3.25 to 3.5.
3.25, 3.5. So that's the kind of completed cap rate that people can sort of expect on a 20 plus building.
So here's the thing, we only have one completed building. It's a 9 unit and we've renovated all the units.
Yeah.
So there's no upside in rents on that. That'll probably sell as a 4.25.
So yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. When there's no upside,
Yeah.
And there are buyers at that.
But there's upside. Like even our 22 unit, which we've refinanced since we bought it 4 years ago, I don't remember. We've refinanced it, and we've pulled out of all of our money already. Yet it's still there's 60% upside in rents.
Yeah. Well, and that's going to keep happening. Like, even when we say there's no upside because you've already turned it over, there still is.
Oh yeah.
Because the market's just being the market that Canadian market is.
I renovated a unit 4 years ago, and I got $1,300 for a 2-bedroom, which was unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
And now it's $1,700.
Yeah.
So that's what, 30%?
Yeah. The last few years have just been unprecedented, and it's hard to fully understand what has happened, what's driven that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I mean, it's not going to go down either, right? Like, it's...
Yeah. I do want to talk about it. Like, I'm curious what you think. What was the driving factor over the last, say, when did it really kick off? 2016 end, start 2017. Rents went through the roof. Property values across Canada really seemed to just go nuts.
So a lot of it is, so in Hamilton in particular, they're not creating any more multifamily. Like, there's no purpose-built rentals anymore, right? So basically, Hamilton in general needs about 900 rental units per year to be added to the mix to be able to keep up with demand. At most, the best years they've had are 300 to 350 rental units. So you continue to keep not including those rental units, and obviously they need to keep 900 per year just to maintain. That's not to get ahead of the situation. That's to maintain. So every year you get a bigger and bigger deficit. So there's more people looking for fewer properties. Therefore, price goes up.
Yeah, the natural situation.
And to be honest with you, it's the same in the housing market, right? Like, there's going to be more sales every year because more people are moving to Canada.
So it's an immigration-driven problem in a large part, anyway.
I mean, the demand side is. The supply side is obviously another issue.
Well, yeah. So I mean, if we're thinking at a political level, like they should make those decisions in hand in hand. If we're going to be immigrating, we need to have a plan for creating more housing.
But the problem is we need to immigrate. Like, we wouldn't, like, our economic system is based on it. Like, if we didn't have immigrants coming in this country, like, our GDP would probably be negative or very small.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to grow it.
And they need to grow because, again,
the debt.
Well, we've become used to this social system, right?
Yeah.
And the social system costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep enjoying the benefits Canada has, and then obviously we need to have people who come in and help pay for that, and that's what happens. And
so we've got to find a way to remedy this housing situation, though, in Canada. I mean, as investors, we can look at it and take advantage and say, well, if this is happening in Hamilton, they can't keep up. We see them spreading out to Welland, Fort Erie. Yep. It's just a natural progression. They're going to just keep spreading because they just can't keep up. Not enough housing.
It's like how Don Campbell said, you drop
drop the stone in the middle of the pond.
Stone in the middle of the pond and it
ripples flutter.
Right?
Yeah.
So you just got to follow those ripples out.
I always say that because it was his most memorable quote from that book.
Yeah, 100%,
when I read it. Yeah, it does keep fluttering. So what do you think? I mean, for you, is there more Hamilton in your near future, or are you looking outward?
So I'm looking outward. So every time I've looked outward, though, I've always come back because I found a deal in Hamilton. Yeah. And so I'll probably still be buying in Hamilton. Yeah. I like Hamilton. I'm actually hoping that I can retain some of these buildings that I have in the portfolio right now. Yeah. If that's in the cards, that'd be great. If not, then that's fine too. So we'll see what happens.
If not, you'll buy more.
Yeah.
Do you have another investor lined up that would do similar and has the similar pockets?
Not similar pockets, I don't think, but similar. I'd have to put a couple people together, probably put a group together and figure that out. Yeah.
And once you do that, is the expectation, like how would you structure when you have multiple partners in?
So I'd probably do an 8% preferred return and then a 25% equity stake.
Okay, so just a combination of debt and common shares. Now, so you're saying all the investors split 25% ownership?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're commanding a bit of a stronger deal for yourself in that regard.
Yeah, except that now that I have the 8%.
Now you got a service.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: like it gets paid out on a refinance, or it gets paid out on a liquidity event.
So you'll just work your butt off to get that taken care of, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that makes a ton of sense. How did you progress? Like, at what size of buildings were you doing before you got to this? Like, now you're 20 plus typically.
Yeah.
I mean, how did it start for you, and how did the evolution happen? Like, what years approximately did you really step it up?
So I started buying duplexes back in, I don't know, 15 years ago. Yeah. What's that? 2005?
2005, 2006?
Actually, I think it was we might even be closer to 17 years now.
Because you wrote that rent-to-own book right around then, right? 15 years ago or so?
That was 12. It came out 12 years ago because that's when I got my real estate license.
Okay.
So, yeah, it came out 12 years ago. Yeah, so I was doing, 17 years ago, that makes sense, timeline. 17 years ago, that's when I was buying duplexes, Newmarket, Toronto. I was buying 2 to 4 units out in Cornwall. I started buying out in Hamilton. About 12 years ago out in Hamilton. And I was buying 2 to 4 units because, again, they offer the quickest opportunity to be able to turn units, get them vacant, renovate them. I wasn't really converting anything back then because there was enough supply that I could buy something that was horrible and just fix it.
Just fix it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So no conversion needed. And then did you just have general contractors you worked with? You sent them enough business and got it going?
Yep. General contractors that I work with. I still work with some of those same guys today. Yeah. And then I stepped up into a vacant 18 unit. Then another 19
Would that have been
units,
like 10 years ago or something like that?
How long was 1544 King Street? Yeah, eight years ago maybe.
Okay.
10 years ago. Yeah, right around then. Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be. And then we bought another 19 units. I bought a couple 6 units side by side. I had a couple smaller stuff like 8 units and stuff like that I've since flipped out. But
okay. And what's the mindset when you go in and you buy like 6, 8, 10, 12, I guess now more like a 20? Are you going in saying, knowing this market, I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer? Or are you saying there's ups, there's downs, but I think we're going to win?
I get a light flutter in the stomach because it's like, ooh, I'm overpaying.
Yeah.
And then I always just say, okay, Mark, you're going to overpay today. In 5 years, you're going to look like a genius.
Yeah.
Because they'll all sit back and say, oh, wow, I can't believe you got it for that price.
Now, do you feel like you're overpaying when you consider what the real market rent should be?
No.
No, so you don't feel that way. You just mean for today, for the condition, for all the crappy tenants.
That's
I don't mean to call them crappy, but I mean the people who are paying a lot less.
Yes.
Than
lower than market rents. Yeah.
Yeah. So you still know good deal based on what it could be. It's just about getting from A to B.
Yeah.
And I feel that too. When I look at a deal, I'm like, well, yeah, sure. If it's at what it should be, then we're laughing here. But it feels like the sellers are pricing based on what it should be, not what it is. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
In a large way.
Well, and here's the thing, right? So when it's fully finished, then you're going to have that's why you get a lower cap rate, because people are paying for opportunity. Mm-hmm. Like they're going to pay for a little piece of that upside already. They need to. You can't buy for what it is today.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like, why would anybody sell it to you?
Well, that's just the supply and demand factor. There's just not enough of it. If there was more supply, then buyers could command a better deal, but they can't.
10 years ago, we'd go around Hamilton looking at apartment buildings and be like, oh, let's go see 5 today. Yeah. Right. And then 3 out of the 5 would really work financially. And then you'd look at it and say, oh, and you decide which one to buy. You negotiate with all 3 of them. And then, at the end of the day, who knew? We should just bought all 5.
As long as you get the money for it.
Yeah.
Well, and the capacity. Capacity is a big thing. Ability to turn these units over. You mentioned that you obviously don't have the ability to turn everything over all at once.
Yeah. Well, I probably could. I just have to go on a hiring spree.
Yeah, well, it'd be a little frustrating. Do you have a lot of your own employees that work for these companies?
No,
None of your own. It's all subbed?
Yep.
Okay, so what do you look for in, say, the city of Hamilton, which is traditionally a rougher city? When you started there, it certainly was, and it's come a long way. What do you look for as being a sign that this is going to be a good area or is a good area?
I mean, you see areas transitioning, right?
Of course, yeah.
Like you can see new restaurants coming in, like art galleries. The storefronts that were boarded up are now, there's actually shops in them. You see people like for East End Hamilton is where I bought East End. It's around Ottawa Street, but you could start to see that people were moving in from Toronto they were buying these houses like super cheap. And it started with actually a little street called Madison, which is like Cannon and Sanford area, which for the longest time, it wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. But I sold 3 houses on this within like 6 months and all to Toronto buyers. Okay. And I was like, there's actually people coming to live there. And, obviously they had enough money to buy there. They sold their condo downtown, moved there. They have, and they could basically afford to live there, one person working, and better lifestyle. And it got me thinking, like, those are the people who are out. They don't mind going out to a restaurant. Like they're
I mean that area, like that time, there'd be a lot of people that are on interesting drugs walking around in that area. I mean, you're not far from the industrial area in the north.
Yeah, the fun Tim Hortons right there at Sanford and Cannon there. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not far from the Barton Center. That's relatively new, though, right? The Walmart,
the Power Center. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that area is transitioning so much, but that was for me one of the hardest things to come into that area and say, like, people want to live here, because it's been real rough. And in a lot of the houses, even I look at the build quality, and you could tell it was a rough area from the very beginning. Yeah. It was not a lot of money type of area. Now, if you go a little further south, down towards Main Street, you start to see better brick builds. And
so when I started investing in Hamilton, the thing was you didn't invest north of Main Street. And then 6 months later it was, okay, we don't go north of King. Yeah. And then a year later is we don't go north of Cannon. Yeah. And now it's like, well, the lake is stopping us. So.
Well, I don't think you really want to go north of Burlington, right? Burlington Street.
If there's anything there's not much there.
Yeah, occasionally there's that couple little pockets where there were like factory housing.
I don't know if you've had Alex Powell on the show or not.
Yeah, I did, but I don't know if we got into that.
Yeah, but so he has an office there now on Wentworth, north of Burlington. And he has a beautiful property, and people come by, like the residents are like, oh, we love what you did. Like this was crap. And like they take pictures in front of his place. And
as long as I guess you can't see smokestacks, like that's the big thing. As long as you can't see the industrial, yeah. Oh yeah, no. If I'm selling it, no. But I don't care. Like personally, I wouldn't live there. But I am talking from an investor standpoint, because I think what tenants will think, right? Yep. Even telling the tenants that you're going to be up there, they'll be like, I don't know. But I mean, it's only a matter of time. Like you said, in 5 years, you look like a genius because you did it.
Sometimes those smokestacks are going to go away because it's all going to be health and tech jobs there anyway. So
yeah, that's the multi-million-dollar question. I know I've heard rumors.
Multi-billion, trillion-dollar question.
Yeah, I mean, if they could clean up that harbor, what a beautiful place that could be.
Yeah, imagine on the other side what those are worth, like on the Burlington side.
Oh yeah, looking over. I mean, what's it called, North Shore? Like, oh my God, they pay so much money. They pay multi-millions for that waterfront property. Looking at smokestacks and industry, can only imagine. But I think that's more of a 25 to 50 year horizon.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to care as much at that point in time.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, Mark, we spent a lot of time here in this room talking about, we're pretending we know what's happening and where things are going.
Hypothesizing, for sure.
Hypothesizing. Well, my goal with it is to not tell people what's going to happen, but to tell them the things I look for so that maybe we can have a better gauge on what's coming. Yeah. We did just talk about it on the update. So for people who haven't been following that, where do you see things going, in Canada in the near future? We did our 2021 predictions. Yeah. Give me your 2021 predictions here at the start.
I think real estate's going up. I think at some point the stock market's going to take a little dive. I don't know what that looks like, 5-10%. But I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, vaccines coming. I think we're going to open up. We have to. I don't know, the second lockdown that we're in right now, it boggles my mind a little bit. But again, it is where we're living. So I think we're going to open up. I think by summer, I think this is going to, the economy is going to open up, and at least I'm hoping. Yeah. And I mean, in that time, though, I think you're going to see a bit of a pullback somewhere in the stock market because it's pretty inflated. Mm-hmm. I think the real estate prices are just going to go up because low interest rates. Yeah. It's driving the market stupid right now, and like there's super low inventory.
Yeah, and so to recap some of the details, we've talked about 17% year over year in Canada increase in prices, which we both think is pretty heavily driven through interest rate drop. Yeah. But also, I think we just had a lack of housing, and this became the opportunity.
Well, there's that. I mean, yeah. So the government, instead of fixing the problem, which is supply, yeah, they're trying to fix the demand side. Yeah. Right, by changing like the rules, right, to go ahead and, you know, what's it called?
The stress test,
yeah. Or when they take out some of the mortgages through CMHC or whatnot, right? Yeah. So they're trying to fix the demand side, which, to be honest with you, I think in Canada, and this might be the same in the States, everybody has this thought that home ownership is a necessity. Yeah. Right. And I think we have one of the highest rates of home ownership in the world. I think it's like
over 60%.
65% or something, right? And I think people need to get away from that and say, you know, maybe just being a renter is fine.
It's going to happen. I mean, it was inevitable, right?
I mean, I honestly, I'd rather rent my principal residence and take that equity and be able to go invest that somewhere else. I can make a heck of a lot more money than, you know, even my property going up 10% a year. I can make a heck of a lot more money on it.
Yeah. Well, that's actually what I did. I mean, to start out, I knew I'd be able to get mortgages if I didn't own my own home here in Burlington. So I didn't. And I still don't. I still rent my principal so that I could buy the properties that I bought. And it allowed me to get the mortgages. It allowed me to grow that. And, you know, the negative, which we talked about before, is you don't get that tax benefit of the equity.
Yeah. And I heard they're going to take that out anyways. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah. Don't even get me started. So we might, you know, this is where it might be a good idea. I mean, things to actually consider as a Canadian, which I actually am evaluating because I don't think inside the box. I think outside the box. Becoming a tax resident somewhere else, I can still spend 6 months, just short of 6 months in Canada, and not be a tax resident here. Yeah. So not get some of that fallout. So I'm going to be actively looking at markets like Florida. You know, wherever I see an opportunity, and it's a lot more affordable actually, based on, you know, compared to incomes there. So I see some opportunities there. On that note, where do you see opportunities right now? Like, what are you going to be looking at?
Well, I'm going to put, at the beginning, I'm going to take the money and put it into stock market options, because I do some options trading, obviously.
Try and profit from that coming downturn a little bit.
Well, here's the thing, right? If you know what you're doing, you can make money in an up or down market. Yeah. So definitely going to be doing that. I will be looking at real estate here in Hamilton, outlying areas here, also Alberta. Mm-hmm. Again, we talked about Florida a little bit, Tampa area. I like that. Yeah. Maybe some Texas stuff, but I doubt that.
And I know we briefly talked about New Brunswick as an opportunity.
Yeah, New Brunswick. I mean, I've been looking out there. I just haven't found any multis that I really like. Okay.
And I don't think that that's a market that like has signs of booming for the reasons of industry. I think it's just affordability. It's been long underpriced in my view. Yeah,
and I mean, I kind of feel that getting out there 2-3 years ago was the time. I mean, I haven't really done the math on the build cost. I know that you say that you can still buy for under build cost, which if you can do that, then why wouldn't you? But Hamilton still like that too. Like, you couldn't build a concrete construction building for $200,000 a unit.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you're going to be at least $200 a square foot on something like that to build, plus all your other costs involved. So. Yeah, still opportunities there. I think it's just where's the most obvious. Like, I look at like how much effort do I have to, like if I have a cash flow goal, the effort I have to put into attaining that goal in Hamilton versus in New Brunswick doesn't even compare.
Well, 100%. And for me, real estate is never cash flow. Mm-hmm. Real estate for me has always been net worth builder.
Net worth builder.
Yeah, I make enough cash flow from other businesses.
So you've got the realtor business, you've got your restaurants, you've got your options trading.
Options trading.
Is that your primary income, would you say?
So basically now my realtor is incorporated, so that is my biggest source of personal income.
From the options trading.
From the options trading. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you're. Tell me a little bit about that, like how you got into that and what you're up to now.
Yeah, so I met Omar from Theta Trading at Rain like 10 years ago, whatever that was. And then, he's kept bothering me. Hey, you got to check this out. You got to check this out. Finally, I said, okay, what do I need to do? He's like, read these 2 books. So number 1 was Derek Foster.
Yeah,
Money for Nothing, Stocks for Free, which if you guys are going to buy it, don't buy it off Amazon. Buy it off stopworking.ca because you get it for $20 instead of 50. And then Lee Lowell, Get Rich with Options. So I did that. I'm like, okay, great. What's next? So he's opened his trading account. Okay, what do I do? He's like, put 10 grand in. Okay. So I put 10 grand in and started playing. And we had a group with like 5 or 6 of us in there, trading type thing. And I basically started it. I was like, wow, this is not that hard. I made some money. I lost some money. But basically I started to learn. And it took me a year before I really ramped up. So
you kept it around 10
I kept it around 10. I got it to like 13 or 14 in that first year, which is a great return. And then, but I obviously was up, down, because I wasn't trading I didn't have a plan.
No specific fundamentals.
Right. Okay. So then it was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And so my first 3 months of the next year was like, okay, this is working. And then I went ahead and started dumping more money in. So I had money in second mortgages at the time. So anytime a second mortgage came back, I just put the money into the trading account.
Okay. So you grew it up, and then now it's taken a whole new shape to where you've got enough money in there that it's an easy income for you.
Yeah. So now it's an easy income, and I've even I've pivoted that again where I took charting with Mikey Ulano. I've had him on the show a couple times, where it's like, okay, it's being more. It's not as gut feeling, right? It's like, okay, here's what's happening. Yeah. Okay, it should go up from here. Let's do something. Let's buy a call, sell a put, sell a put or buy a put if we think it's going to go down.
So where does because I've read both those books and I didn't really feel like I knew how to pick stocks. I've never been a stock investor, and yes, I understood the tactic, but I didn't really have a great gauge on how to pick a stock. So where would you say the average person should go to if they wanted to learn more about that?
To start where I did. It's pick good dividend stocks that if you had to own them anyways, it wouldn't be that bad.
So like an Apple computer or something like that.
Apple computers. I don't know. Enbridge, although that might not be so good with Keystone not going through. There's
everyday names like
Intel. There's a whole bunch of stocks out there like banks, that type of thing. Canadian banks are obviously very good. And you can just sell puts on them, and if you
make a little bit of money by selling puts on them a little bit at a time, kind of selling that insurance policy.
One of my first videos I did on the channel, I think I did a Royal Bank call where I showed how much money I made just on Royal Bank. And it was like 7% over the course of 3 weeks.
Okay. That's up on your YouTube channel?
I think so, yeah.
I gotta check that one out.
Yeah,
I mean, it's even just using that app, I find I'm like, what am I looking at right now? Because I got it just for like paper trading. Like I was just gonna mess around with it. And it's a lot. It's a lot at first.
I tell you to put 10 grand in. Get a watch list going. Once you get a watch list going and you become familiar with it, like you start to see what the stocks will do and the pattern and that type of thing.
I just got to start. I think, for me as a real estate investor, it's so funny because I interview so many people that are doing it. And it's just such a weird anomaly to me that so many people are all doing this. There's obviously something to it. We're entrepreneurs at heart. So this is why people go to opportunity.
I'll tell you why a lot of people do it, or at least why I love doing it. In the real estate world, like as in my real estate sales business or in the, investment business, there's a lot of people. With options, there's no people. So you can do this literally from anywhere in the world. Like I could be on a beach in Costa Rica right now trading options.
That's true. And predictable income, or you obviously know there's a variance. You might lose 100 grand one month and then be up 200 the next or something like that. So you got to have a stomach for that, but it's all based on how big you play, right? No, you don't go starting with $1 million.
Well, there's that, and there's obviously position sizing. So you go ahead and size the position accordingly to your risk. Like if you can't stomach having your account down $100,000 in a day, then okay, don't go that heavy.
Well, and you can do a stop loss or something like that.
You can do a stop loss.
Yeah, so there's things you can do. Anyway, we're getting advanced. I just wanted to give a perspective because obviously a lot of people are doing this. Okay, so Mark, if people wanted to look into you more, follow you, where should we send them?
Living the Dream 40 on Instagram, the Mark Loeffler Experience on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll include both of those so people can find you, and the Instagram handle as well. Mark, it's always great catching up,
you too, man.
I'm sure we'll see you next month for the market update.
That's right.
I'll always enjoy it. So, anyways, thanks again.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.